Welcome to the Success Fitness Podcast. I am your host, Christian Evans. This podcast is for women and men over 30 who wants to achieve success in their fitness journey. And our special guest today, Clare Gibson, functional nutritionist and co-founder of Daly, will help us do just that by sharing her story of what a functional nutritionist is and what they do, what Daly is and who is it for, and how she overcame her bout with IBS. Without further ado, Success Fitness family, please welcome Clare Gibson to the podcast. How you doing today, Clare?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. No problem. So let everybody know where you are right now and what time is it there?
Yes, I'm actually in Australia, Perth, Australia, and it is 7:12 a.m. So got a pretty large time difference.
Yeah. So right now, and so it's Friday there. Right now, we're recording this on Thursday, July 27th, and it is 6:13 p.m. And so we had to arrange the time difference in order to do this podcast. So I'm grateful and thankful that you made it. So what's the weather like there right now?
Honestly, I wish I was in the US right now. It is the middle of winter. I'd say Perth is as close to California weather as you can get, Southern California. So winters are pretty mild where, you're looking at 60 degrees, but some rain. But me personally, I'm a summer girl. And so seeing everyone I know's photos and everything go up in summertime over there, I wish I was there.
Okay. So you say it's winter. Your winter is July, you say?
Yeah, we got winter. So we get hit with winter, probably July, August, September are our coldest 3 months.
What? Okay.
We never get snow, just rain and storm, and then that's it.
Okay, so your version of winter is rains and just thunderstorms and stuff like that. Now, does it rain like violently there? Like what's that look like?
No, it's not too bad. Actually, it's not too bad. It'll come down, it'll rain, and then it'll just stop. So we're pretty lucky. We get a lot of days where it's just sunshine. It's nice and cool. It's mild.
Okay. Yeah, it's about 95 degrees here. We've been going through a heat wave here, but that's kind of typical about end of July going into August for us here in the Midwest of the United States, Peoria, Illinois. So first question, what is a functional nutritionist and what exactly do they do?
Yeah, look, there's so many different types of nutritionists, dietitian, go into wellness coaches. There's all these different titles. They mean different things in different countries. However, their premise is the same. So obviously everyone is out there to help better the lives of other people through nutrition. That being said, there are different levels of education that come with each of these titles. So as a functional nutritionist, I've gone through my undergraduate degree in nutrition and dietetics, and then I've actually gone and done further courses in functional nutrition. So the main difference between, I guess, regular nutrition is more looking at how can you improve the lives through food. You're looking at a lot of maybe meal plans, dietary changes, people wanting to deal with the more general things. Now, a functional nutritionist, on the other hand, looks at root cause approach. So instead of just looking at the food, we take into account things like hormones, stress, environment, all these different things that can affect the body. And then people come in and see us and go, maybe my gut's off, or I'm getting headaches, or I'm feeling really tired. And what we do then is we take into account all these different factors in their life, including nutrition, find where this issue is actually stemming from and fix that root cause so this person can go out and live a full life. Okay,
that sounds way more detailed than the average nutritionist, which it's, how certain titles, people assume you take care of all this stuff. And it's no, I just take care of this thing, example, personal trainer. It's oh, you're a nutritionist too. So you're going to do this. And it's no, I'm just a personal trainer, so what it sounds like from you, it's okay, there's nutritionists. And then there's, what you are, a functional nutritionist, what you just pretty much explained, to where it's yes, we will look at as far as your nutritional intake, but also, like you said, there hormones, gut health and other different factors, which is so important. That way it's it's not so cut and dry. I think a lot of times when people are on their fitness journey or either getting started, it's this cut and dry thing. They think it's just black and white, and it's like there's so many different colors. You know what I mean? There's so many just different factors that some can take it as or interpret it as, let's say, intimidating. You know, because it is a lot, but it's just a lot of information that somebody's coming to you, and it's like, okay, I need the full story of who you are. And like you said, that includes, hey, you know, what's your gut health like, you know, what's your social life like, or whatever. So I get it. That's been the first time I've ever heard the difference between a functional nutritionist. I thought a functional nutritionist and a nutritionist, I thought they were all one and the same. And, you know, learn something new. So how did your bout with IBS lead you to start Daly, and who is Daly for?
Yeah.
Am I even pronouncing that right?
Oh, no, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
It comes, I think, with a lot of a background. So I think for a lot of people, it's kind of good to understand my story and where I came from. So obviously, over in Australia, I was a high jumper, competed for, I think, 13 years. And the last 4 or 5 of them were in elite sport. So I actually came over to the US on a full scholarship at D1. So I was at Kansas State University for 2 years and then transferred out to Long Beach State University in Long Beach, California. So I actually, while I was over there, actually the year before I got to the US, I was at the Under-18 World Championships in Colombia. Had a really, really bad bout of food poisoning, landed me in hospital. I was in there for 4 hours and, you know, after that, okay. But after that, I was never quite the same. And obviously at the time I was 17, I had no idea what gut health was, anything like that. I just knew after that I was starting to get a lot of issues. So, you know, at that young age, you just kind of deal with it. No one really wants to talk about being bloated or having brain fog. It's just something you just think as a girl, it's fine, move on. And so as I went through my years of college and intense training, things just started to get worse. I ended up going all the way through seeing specialists, seeing GPs, got clinically diagnosed with IBS. And for a lot of people out there, they wonder what even is IBS. Well, it's kind of the same as having a rolled ankle. So it's essentially doctors saying, look, you've got issues, you have bowel issues, you have gut issues, but we don't actually know what it is and we can't pinpoint it. Easiest way to describe it. And so I spent about 3 years just absolutely miserable. And we're talking, you know, I'm training 6 days a week. We're training twice a day. These 2-3 hour sessions. And it got to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I was, you know, 130 pound, 5'10" girl. As a high jumper, you've got to be extremely light. I'd be waking up 10 pounds heavier, being so bloated because of what was going on. I was miserable and I couldn't eat foods. I was sensitive to pretty much anything I ate. And it got to the point where my coaches were like, Claire, you can't train. Like, you're physically not able to train. It was impacting my mental health, my sport, even my social life. Couldn't go out. And it was at that point that for me, I was going, I've had enough. I had tried every diet under the sun. I had been to GPs, specialists, gone on the FODMAP diet, gone as far as trying juice fasts because although unhealthy, it was the only thing I was ready to do anything that would work. Hundreds of supplements, and I was still just left nothing. And it was at that point for me, it was going, I need to figure out why I'm getting these issues in the first place, and then how can I fix them? And I was sick of band-aiding symptoms. So I was you know, taking medication every time I ate. And I just wanted to be able to go out and eat with friends and enjoy life as everyone did. And so for me, that led to, obviously, with studying my degree and doing these extra qualifications, let's dive into gut health. That is where my absolute love and passion came from, because I wanted to help myself. And so I spent about 6 months every single day in the research, the literature, just reading the newest articles that were out, finding what are the common things that are wrong with people with IBS, people with autoimmune conditions like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, inflammatory conditions. What are these commonalities that are happening between them all? And once we're able to identify that, I then went, okay, how can we get ingredients that have scientific literature behind them? So they're actually proven to work. How can we get all these things that cover these four bases, put them in a supplement that'll actually fix the root cause of why someone's getting bloated, bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, all these things in the first place. And that essentially is how Daly came to be.
Okay.
It was never intended. I made the formula to help myself. That was my only at that point.
Right.
And so make it in my kitchen sink in my little, my little house, my house.
Right.
And yeah, I spent about 6 months just formulating it, testing on myself. And once I realized that it had worked and I no longer had food sensitivities, I no longer had 75% of my issues, that's when I started working with A, my professors, and B, some local GPs and doctors that I knew well. And we spent 2 years just testing it. So we tested it on everyone we possibly could, patients that came through the clinics that had issues, and just said, hey, with surveys and different things, how can we measure how this is working and see, is it a fluke? Are we actually, having something that can help a mass amount of people? And over those 2 years, the data just came back. It was honestly surprising. I knew it worked. I just didn't realize how well it worked, especially with so many people. And I just couldn't believe, how has no one done this before? How has no one bought out something that fixes the cause rather than just chucks a Band-Aid on it? And over the next couple of years, we just said, look, let's bring it back to Australia. Let's turn it into a product and let's be able to sell it to the people. So that's me today.
Okay. Congratulations. Now, going back to the root of, your IBS, do you think it was your body in shock from, I guess, what you have been eating from the Australian diet to the American diet? Do you think that was a factor at all?
Look, I think gut health is complicated, and I tell people this all the time. So look, you can have two people come to you and they both are experiencing severe bloating. Now, the reasons as to why they're bloated can be vastly different from each other. And that's why it's so difficult out in the world to figure out, well, A, what's the actual root cause of why you're getting these issues in the first place? And it's also why taking a generic two-dimensional supplement never actually really helps people, because if you have issues, you may have 3 or 4 different things wrong. And so it's really hard to say it's one exact thing. And that's why when you find a solution for your gut health, you can't just target it from one angle. You've got to target it from 2, 3, 4 angles to actually get a result. So, for me, in my case, food poisoning. So they now believe, with all the literature, up to 50% of cases of IBS actually stem from food poisoning. So,
really? Can you remember what you ate that kind of got you food poisoning? Because I've had food poisoning before, but I wanted to hear what yours was.
Honestly, I don't remember. I was 17. It was actually the night before my final at the under-18 World Champ. I got out of the final and was in hospital for the 24 hours. Yeah, it was a pretty...
That couldn't have came at a worse time.
Not to mention a Colombian hospital. They're not as clean as the Western world. So... Oh,
okay.
No one speaks English, foreign speaking place, but...
Okay, so you were in Colombia when this happened?
I was in Colombia, yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay. Now, that kind of makes, I guess, sense now. I don't want to sound insensitive, but, we know. Yeah, I got you. I think I got mine when I was at Ruby Tuesdays when it was here. And from what I hear, if you vomit black, it's lettuce or something like that. And so I just remember vomiting up like just black, and I'm just laid out next to the toilet and just throwing up. It was like the worst experience I think I've ever had in regards to just, you're eating something bad, your stomach's queasy. But that one right there was like, no. I think it took me about 3 or 4 days, maybe 5, to kind of like fully get over it. But I was just paranoid after that. But I don't believe I had IBS. Now, how did you know that that's what it was? Was it like constant bloating after the I guess, the food poisoning bout, what were like the steps that lead you to like, okay, you know, I need to go to a specialist to, I guess, get some clarification on what is going on with my body?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, so obviously I think I always like to tell people there's no, as you said, so you also got food poisoning, but you're fine. You didn't end up with issues. And
right.
It creates a perfect storm. And that's what's required for somebody to enter into that. So, you know, you look at things like IBS, we got to go back to why is it happening in the first place? Like, what are the root causes? So one, inflammation. Inflammation is one of the key drivers of a lot of different diseases, a lot of different just pathological conditions, including gut issues and things like leaky gut, intestinal permeability. So, you know, if you're getting sick, obviously the immune system is activating, you're going to get a lot of inflammation. That's one key thing that is very, very present in anyone with any kind of gut condition. Two is gut. So this may happen over time. It could happen with a bout of food poisoning. It could be from alcohol. It could be from, you know, eating bad foods. But essentially what happens is, you know, your gut wall should be nice and close together with all the cells. Now, there's all those different things in the environment that can actually make these kind of separate and come apart. And that's what we know as leaky gut. So things like toxins, food particles, bacteria that once couldn't get through to the bloodstream now can pass through the gut into the blood and cause a flare-up. That's number two. So we got inflammation, we have leaky gut, dysbiosis. So things like food poisoning, you're obviously putting pathogenic bacteria in the body. Now, we always have good and bad bacteria in there, but for a lot of people, they can have too much bad bacteria, not enough good bacteria, too much overall bacteria.
Right.
This is what can cause issues.
Right.
Three, and lastly, just not having enough good bacteria that actually promote gut health and just health in general. So
gotcha.
Understanding those four key things of these are commonly wrong in so many different people. For myself, you know, stress would have played a role. So now, whilst I don't feel like I'm stressed, training 6 days a week, 2 sessions a day is stressful on the body. The body doesn't know the difference. So stress can cause and lead to things like leaky gut. Now, sport's also going to lead to inflammation. So there are two key drivers right there of things that could have led me to having IBS. Add in just the fatigue you get from sport. Your immune system is more run down. You're then more predisposed to getting issues like this and your immune system acting up. Obviously, the food poisoning. And then lastly, I think there's always going to be a component of food. So, you know, when you're in an elite training environment, especially in a sport like high jump, you are forced to be light. You're forced to be a lot lighter than most people should be. And so as a female, especially, you are always bordering that kind of red line of, are you eating enough or are you under eating? And so at the time while you're in that sport, you don't really have a choice because a couple of kilos can be the difference of gold in not placing. And so the sacrifices you do make. However, that consistent underfueling can also lead to digestive issues down the track.
I got you. That's intense. That is intense. Now, rewinding back a little bit, because this is a personal question for me. I am not 100% sure what gut is, right? So my version of what I interpret what gut is like your belly, right? You know, you hear it's like, oh, you got a big gut, you know, it's your stomach sticking out or whatever. But probably about the last like 2 years, I've been hearing a lot more of like leaky gut health, and just gut health overall. So for me and the listeners, what is gut? I don't know if I'm saying that right either. So please help me out on that one.
Absolutely. Look, it's complicated. So the most simple, I like more to look at it as the digestive system. So obviously when we eat, you're getting food, digestion starts in your mouth. So the moment you put food in your mouth, we have little enzymes that start to break down carbohydrates. And as it goes through, you've got enzymes going all the way through. So it goes down through, reaches your stomach. Your stomach can help digest food. Then it goes down through, you know, you've got your small and your large intestine, and eventually it comes out the other end. And there can be things all the way along that process that may be impaired or damaged. I think what I like to look at mostly with the gut is in the small intestine. So that is where all your nutrients are absorbed. So
Okay.
as your food passes through, you've got all these little kind of villi. They're little finger-like things that stick on the insides of your gut wall.
Gotcha.
And essentially, as food passes through, they reach out and they grab all the nutrients. So they take your vitamins, they take your minerals, and then, you know, all your water's extracted out, so you're hydrated. All these different processes happen. Now, in terms of somebody with gut issues, often what can happen is either these villi get kind of squashed, you get the things with the leaky gut, so that's where you get the little gaps forming. All kinds of things can go wrong or just be impaired. And essentially that impacts how you digest your food and how it performs. So I guess it's the basic anatomy of the gut. It can encompass a lot of different things.
Gotcha.
That being said, it impacts almost every single system in the human body, which is so cool in itself. And they're finding it more and more each day. So, you know, we've got, if we're just looking at females, we've got obviously your digestion. So we've talked about how it helps your digestion or can hinder your digestion. Mental health. We've looked at female hormones. So a lot of girls experiencing things like period pain or even menopause symptoms. So, you know, for both different age groups, your gut health can play a role in regulating your hormones, which can directly impact things like menopause and period pain. Your mental health, 70% of your immune system lies within your gut. So all these things are affected by the gut. And whilst, you know, I always tell people, they say, hey, Claire, if I fix my gut, is it going to fix my skin? Is it going to make me not get sick? And I tell them, look, it's never going to fix it directly. However, if you fix your gut and make it more resilient, these things like your skin, which is an organ, may clear up as an indirect result of that. You're likely to have a much stronger immune system purely because you have better bacteria in your gut and your immune system is a lot more regulated. So it often has a very indirect effect on other aspects of the body, but absolutely can be used as remedies to help these other things. And then that goes back to the functional nutrition aspect. Connecting the, you know, gut health with mental health, with all these different things and understanding how these systems work together.
Now, what are some things that one can eat that is beneficial for gut health? I've been seeing different drinks out like kefir or probiotics and things like that. I'm not too for sure what they are, what they are not. You know, I hear, you know, people here and there, but it's like I haven't done my own research. That's just far as for me. So bring me up to speed, please, on what are some things that we can run to and some things that we can run away from, do without, things that are beneficial for our gut health and things that are not so beneficial for our gut health.
Yeah. Look, I want to break this into two different parts. I think there's the area of supplements and then there's the area of food. Okay. We'll start with supplements because it's a bit shorter. So in terms of supplements, things to stay away from, I think for me, one of my biggest pet peeves and the things I see is obviously this TikTok trends. So you get a lot of influencers out there in the marketing world, especially with supplements, and everything claims to benefit your gut health, benefit your immune system. Yeah. With somebody with the knowledge to be able to look at the ingredients and read what's in some of these products, they have no scientific research behind them as to actually helping with your gut health. And people are spending $60, $70 on buying these things and wondering, why don't they work? Well, they don't have research behind them. They're not actually intended for your gut health. Right. So the two most common that I always see, greens powders is number one. Greens powders, people think they've been, you know, powdered for, decreases your bloating, getting in enough greens, all these different benefits. Now, I wouldn't say I'm anti-greens. They can be great to supplement if you maybe don't get enough. Yeah. That being said, there's no research on how they improve your gut health. The biggest issue with them, there is many lawsuits in the US right now with heavy metal contamination with greens powders. What? Big lawsuits. Last couple of years and still ongoing. So with greens powders, greens like your broccoli, your kale, all these different ones that are in there naturally have high amounts of heavy metals in the leaves to keep meeting them. Now, when you're eating these fresh, that's no issue. They're in small amounts. But when you're concentrating these plants down into powders, you're looking at a 10-to-1 ratio. So 10 kilos of plant to 1 kilo of powder. Now, in that concentration period, all those heavy metals stay in there. They don't get extracted. And so what happens is people end up taking these powders, and after a while, some feel sick, some start to have issues. They wonder why. So a big issue I have with a lot of these things is supplements aren't regulated. In Australia, in the US, they're not regulated at all.
Right.
Something I found along my journey of being a founder and obviously releasing a supplement is it's expensive to test. It is an extremely expensive process to find a third party to test your supplement for banned substances, to test it for heavy metals and mold and contamination. And, as a young company, you don't have an infinite budget. You have a very strict budget, and you've got to figure out where do you allocate your funds. Now, for me as a founder, it was like, I want to make sure this product has integrity. But I now know out there, I now know that like most supplements aren't tested. And so you have no idea what's going in them. You have no idea if there's heavy metals in there, if there's mold or bacteria in there. And if you look with some of the FDA studies and even external university research, when they've tested supplements, at least 20% have contamination of banned substances. That's just that. In terms of heavy metals and other contamination, you're looking upwards of 30 to 40% of the supplements you're taking. So in terms, going back to gut health, and that's just a general thing of the supplement.
Right.
Be careful. Check to see if the company has done any kind of testing on them. I will tell you now as a founder, if you've spent the money on getting your product tested, you will absolutely market it on your website and on the product because you want people to know. So check if the company is advertising that they test their supplements, ask them for the documentation. If they can't give it to you, they're likely not testing it. They've used false information, or they just haven't tested it in a very long time. There's some key red flags, people. But going back to gut health with greens powders. So it's ones that their influencers have said, hey, it's the best thing for you. But unfortunately, it's not shown to work. And they also don't know how greens are digested in the body in that form. Same thing as having an apple juice or having an apple versus drinking apple juice. They have very, very different effects when you put it in the body. It's the same with eating a piece of broccoli to having broccoli powder that comes in a greens powder. The second one for me that I always tell people be careful of is probiotics. So 80% of people with gut issues, specifically IBS, have too much bacteria in their body. So too much overall bacteria.
Too much overall. Gotcha.
When you take a probiotic, that has billions of bacteria. Now, whilst they're good bacteria, they may not actually help you, or they may make things worse if you have already too much. It's like adding fuel to a fire.
Gotcha.
Second to that, I'd say about 70% of probiotics on the market, especially in the US, don't have the technology to actually reach your colon and colonize where they need to, which means that when you're consuming a probiotic, your stomach acid will kill it off. All these different processes and things in your body will actually start to kill off these bacteria. So by the time it reaches the colon or where it's supposed to, there's nothing left. Unless you're buying a very expensive, very good quality probiotic with technology that actually gets it down to where it needs to, you're simply wasting your money.
My goodness. It's, I guess, the term snake oil, and it's so common now, and like you said, your product has integrity, right? Because you're like, you know what? I don't want to be like those other companies, and just consciously own your mind, and you've actually gone through it. You're not just somebody say, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and start something and try to sell it. Your foundation was rooted in, hey, I need to get rid of this pain that's going on because nobody has an answer. So I just got to go ahead and test on myself and figure some stuff out. But it's really disheartening. Like how you said, it's influencers. I can't stand that phrase or that word or whatever. Right. And it's everybody. They're just trying to sell something. And it's people believing in it. They're buying it with the hopes of them getting better. And there's a higher chance of them not getting better, or just not getting better. Hopefully they don't get worse, but there's also that chance of that, because like you said, there's metals, heavy metals and certain things in far as powders, or these probiotic drinks and things like that. I just think about when I'm going to the store and I see like the probiotic drinks, they're all in these colorful glass jars and stuff like that. And I'm like, what is this stuff? But, things like that, they don't even do 100% of what they're supposed to do or what they're intended to do, and that's it's just revelating, it's just revelating to this time to where it's like everybody just wants to sell something and no integrity, no real research. And if the company can't provide the Carfax, which I like to say is like, provide me the Carfax, show me the documentation of who you tested this on, where, who, what, when, where, and how, and all of that. And so just with that being said, what is your take as the founder of Daly, who's done the research, who's, gone through as far as the testing? What is something that you stand on in regards to your product and as far as the end result of somebody coming to you with said issue of IBS or just wants better gut health? Mm-hmm. What is it that you stand on in regards to what you can guarantee with this product?
And look, I always say I'm straightforward with people. I think the number one thing for me is someone who's been through it. You've been through so many different people and products that don't work. You're frustrated, you're skeptical, you feel like giving up, but you still have that glimmer of hope that something may work. So oftentimes when I speak to people, they're skeptical, and fairly so. I was too, I would be too. Mm-hmm. And I never guarantee that something's going to work because I can't make that claim. And gotcha. I certainly can't make the claim it's going to work overnight. In fact, I tell people this isn't something it's not going to work overnight. We're not a product that puts a Band-Aid on things. We're something that you have to commit to taking every single day for at least between 2 weeks to 2 months. And if you can take that every single day consistently and make it part of your routine and commit to actually working on yourself as a person and your gut health, that's when you're going to see results. So it's something, we're looking at cell turnover in the body. Right. We're looking at inflammation that's been happening for years and it's chronic. Right.